Hey you, I'm the Queen of Shade. Welcome to the interview. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit my Cash App to support your favorite content creator. Now let's get to the interview. Mwah.
I can think about a million reasons why you need to burn in hell. You're a liar and a cheater, a con artist telling tales. Been rejected, disrespected, boy, your abuse never fails. I'm so done, boy, really done, boy, now I'm staying to myself. I'm so stoic. I'm so stoic. I'm so stoic. I'm so stoic.
Salutations, Dufos. This is your fabulous leader, the Queen of Shade, coming to you to have another conversation, to bring to you a very special presentation, a more in-depth look at who I am, what I've been through, what I've had to endure, to be able to sit here and look at you the way that I do, looking the way that I do, and sounding the way that I do. What we need to understand is that in the Black community, homosexuality is frowned upon. Not only is it frowned upon, but drastic things happen to homosexuals in the Black community. And unfortunately, a lot of those things happened to me. But today is the day of freedom. Today is the day that I no longer harbor all of those hurts and pains. Today is the day I give it back to you so that you can find solace and empowerment enough to stand up and stand against those whom are oppressing you in your life. It started with a meme this morning. I woke up and I was thinking about myself and I said, you know what? God, I thank you. I thank you for making me be all the things that I was afraid to be. And then it further went on to say this. Most Black men are afraid in huge letters to be gay because of what others will do to them or what others will think. I thank God for making me brave enough to risk losing everything and everyone to be my authentic self. Most gay Black men lose their entire support base of friends and family if they are discovered to be homosexual. Losing it all has been enough to make these young gay men commit suicide and end it all at the thought of total exile. 40 years later, I am still here and thriving, no matter who or what I lost. I have gained so much more than I lost through the courage of standing and being my authentic self. It was absolutely worth it. Now, I'm starting this way because I want to tell you a story. Back in the summer of 2008, I had a very hyper sexuality. I wasn't so much hyposexual. I was very hypersexual, which means I had to have a lot of sex. I thought it was part of my mental illness. I thought that it was just because I was manic. I thought it was because I was spiraling out of control. Those are the things I thought. But I was wrong. I wasn't out of control for a single second. And I'm going to explain that to you. In the summer of 2008, I bedded 85 men, back to back to back, never stopping, taking breaks to work and to sleep. And I must admit, it was a very tiring existence. There are many reasons why I did that. And I want to share with you those reasons, just the truthful reasons why I did that. Because as I was laying in my bed this morning, and I asked the divine why, he told me. And I am so self-contained that the divine told me through me. I just started channeling, and I got my answer coming out of me for me. You know, it has always been my journey and my struggle to make sure that my gifts not only work for other people, but that they work for me. You know, a lot of psychics and soothsayers and other people that deal in the spirit world, they can tell you all kinds of things about you, but they can't conjure anything for themselves. Well, I have been honing my abilities and my skills, and I have mastered the ability to manifest things in my own life. I manifested this Queen of Shade. I manifested my music. I manifested my entire career. When others said, no, you'll never make it, you'll never cut it, you don't have any capital, your business will fold. When everybody was saying all of those things, I believed in me and I kept going. With my grandmother at my side, we built the Queen of Shade empire. But I need you to understand something. Experiencing hypersexuality and hyposexuality was something that I did most of my life. You see, I grew up in the 80s, and I had an uncle who had HIV, and I watched him suffer at times. He tried to hide it. He tried to keep it away from us. But even me as a child, I could tell that something was wrong with him and that it was killing him. This was the start of what they were calling the new gay cancer. And people were dropping like flies. No gay man was safe. But you know, my uncle, he contracted it. To this day, I hadn't realized how devastated I was at hearing that he had contracted something that would inevitably cause his demise. And you have to understand why I say that. I say that because this was the 80s, the early 80s. We didn't have PrEP back then, not for the general public. We didn't have all of these precautions that we have now. So the AIDS epidemic and pandemic swept through the gay community, killed thousands upon thousands, hundreds upon thousands, even into the millions. And my Uncle Sidney was my favorite uncle. I mourned, even though he was alive, I mourned what had happened to him. So, of course, being a good uncle, he would sit me down and he would talk to me about his illness. And he would tell me, you don't want to get this. You don't want to have this. Be safe. Protect yourself. You don't want this. This is not a good thing. And you know, my Uncle Sidney lived to his 40th birthday in 2006. He turned 40. He had given it all he could give. And he let go. And he crossed into a world where he could be young, beautiful, and talented the way that he was before leaving here. And not only could he do these things, but he could serve as guardian and protector to me and my family. And that's what he did. And that's what he does. My Uncle Sidney is responsible for all of my music. It never takes me more than 15 minutes to write a song because they channel through me from my Uncle Sidney, who is in a much better place. And me being a medium, I can connect with him. And oh, the conversations that we have, beautiful conversations. Now that I know he is at peace, he is well, he is happy, and he is free. But you see, fear of contracting HIV loomed over my life from a child all the way up to my adulthood. And I had another uncle, not so much my favorite, but he was gifted. He could see things in other people's lives, very prophetic. Only problem was, he kept trying to see something in my life that God did not want me to have. There was remarked on many occasions that I would contract HIV. But God had the final say. And that's when I learned that people that don't like you will oftentimes try to curse you. People that are threatened by the light in your life, or that you'll go further in your endeavor than they ever could, will try to assassinate your character. They will try to pull you down. And what's worse is that he didn't pull me down, but man, oh man, the scars he left in my soul, that I've had to spend 18 years with a therapist and psychologist trying to undo and process. Process first, not even undo, process. It has been a journey. So I was afraid, always afraid of contracting HIV. But you may ask yourself, well, then, if you are afraid of contracting HIV, why the hypersexuality? You were putting yourself at risk. If you are afraid of contracting it, the smart thing to do is not have sex. And I confess to you, I went like that for many, many years. Even now, I'm celebrating 10 years of celibacy. I have not had intercourse with anyone. But also the flip side of that is this. I would have moments where I wanted to be myself. And who I am is a gay man. Who I am is a homosexual. So I was running. I would try to have sex because it became a necessity to me, but then I would try not to do it for long, long periods of time after I had done it. It was no way to live as a young adult. And you have to understand something. The trauma started way before the trauma of knowing that my uncle Sidney had HIV. When I was about 8 years old, in the same year, I was molested by a man and I was raped by a woman. In the same year, at 8 years of age. And you know, I've talked to my therapist about this. But when you steal a child's innocence, you take from them the most beautiful asset that they will ever have. And you leave them with a damaged inner child. And then they grow up to be adults, but their inner child is so damaged and out of control that they make very poor decisions. I hadn't realized how devastated I was at being molested. It took everything from me. And I'm going to get graphic here. The man never penetrated me. The man laid me out on the floor and licked me and touched me and kissed my body and would whisper in my ear. You're so beautiful. You smell so good. You're such a beautiful boy. And I want you to know something about that situation. To a child coming from a home of a drug addict mother, an absentee father, that man that did this to me was the only man to up until that time of 8 years old that had spoken such beautiful words into my spirit. But you have to understand a predator. They give you what you need. They observe you. They watch you. They know that you're broken because of your childhood and your experiences in life. So he gave me the confident words so that he could get the enjoyment of my body. He's dead now. And you know, psychologists tell me all of us wish that our sexual assault personnel or people would die. It's a normal reaction. Well, my guy died. And you know, I thought that if I left it alone, I would be fine. I thought I could deal with it because he was a beautiful man himself and that I would get over it. Forget it. I was only 8. But little did I know that it would cause me to distrust. And not only distrust, but to not be able to form romantic attachments. Long-term romantic attachments. It messed me up. It was hard because I couldn't lay down with a partner and have them say those things to me. You're so beautiful. You smell so good. Even as an adult, it would transport and teleport me back to being that 8-year-old child laying in the backyard of my great aunt's house under the cover of darkness, staring up at the moon while this man ravaged my body. Gently, but ravaging is still ravaging. So, for those of you that know me, I had a boyfriend last year. My first boyfriend, first attempt at a long-term romantic relationship, but it wasn't really the first. I had dated some DL boys. I tend to go for masculinity, but not in the sense that you think, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I had relationships. It's just that I wasn't the only one. I'm not the only one. I have a song out. I'm not the only one. And I didn't like not being the only one. So I got rid of them, even though I'd had some of the best sex of my life with them. And I could be myself with them, which was a young boy, a young man who was a blouse. You're going to hear a lot of terminology in this conversation. But I was a blouse. That means a feminine man that fancies himself atop in a sexual situation. I did not take dick. I did not receive dick. I gave dick. But I have been in situations before. I've been in a few situations with one man where I received. And it was good with him, just not really what I wanted to do. So when I slept with those 85 men, fast forwarding back to 2008, I was the top. I was a good top. I liked to please my sexual partner. I was a good top. And I made sure each one of those boys had a good experience with me. I wanted to plant more so a memory and not so much a physical imprint on their bodies. But this morning I got up and I asked the divine while lying in my bed taking my morning medication. I said, why me? Why did I have to sleep with 85 men? What was that? No, I didn't contract HIV. Yes, I used condoms and water-based lube. Yes, I screwed them, lowering my risk, but I still could have contracted it. Why didn't I contract it? And he answered me, because you used condoms. I wasn't on PrEP then, but I was careful. But then he continued to answer me. And I want to read you what channeled through me this morning. And it reads as thus. In the summer of 2008, I had sex with 85 men. And I can't and couldn't for the longest time figure out why I did it. In hindsight, there were many reasons why I had sex with 85 men. First, I wanted to see if I could do it because I was a new top. And though I was feminine, I wanted to see if I could really pull off the top position. And then I realized top is a state of mind. And that someone that is a top can also be submissive. It's not mutually exclusive. You can be submissive and you can be the top. You can be both. I didn't know that then. But my reasons, let's make this one. I'll give you that free one from before. So this would actually be number 2. I was searching for something, a feeling, a deeper connection to someone or something. 3, I was horny all of the time. I was manic. I was experiencing a manic episode, which really made me hypersexual. I experienced hypersexuality. And then I would experience and have moments where I would be hyposexuality. One is a lot of sex. The other is damn near no sex at all. But the 4th reason why I did so many men, and this one is the most important, and I need you to hear this, was because I was trying to fuck the guilt away. 85 men I slept with. And I still felt guilty. I still felt wrong. I still felt like a sinner and an abomination, a soul destined to burn in hell. At that time, I had lost everything. And I was in exile from my family. I lost the support of the church, and I had ended a rather beautiful support system at college. I had to be medically withdrawn, and I lost that support system because of a psychotic break trying to accept my homosexuality. All of this made for a terrible time for many years in my life. And 23 years later from college, I am just now starting to be able to think about sex with a man and not feel wrong. And you see, there's something different about me there's something special about me that most men do not possess. When I am afraid of something, I will confront it over and over and over and over again until I am no longer afraid of it. So I slept with that many men, trying to get rid of my guilt, trying to see if I could do it so much and for so long that the guilt would just die. However, I still felt the guilt. After that, I went celibate. Even though I have been celibate for 10 years, even though I am on PrEP, which is a prevention, even though the PrEP will prevent a catastrophe, I am still dealing with the brainwashing and the guilt of Christianity and the Black church. But it is my endeavor to rub out that guilt, erase it from my soul, and learn to love my gay ass for the rest of my life, however long that may be, because I'm 40 now. And one day, I plan to break my celibacy and have sex again without any guilt or shame. I can't even masturbate without guilt or shame. But now I am learning to get at the root of the issue and not just the actions on the surface. I will fix me. I will fix me. I will fix the gay boy that the church and Christianity tore down and attempted to destroy, desecrate, and leave for dead. I hated myself for them. And what was worse was that I hated myself for me. You see, contrary to popular belief, homosexuality is more widely ranged in this world. But because of the strict and capital punishments that are delved out by our families and friends, we fear being found out. But somewhere in me, a brave, brave soul was born. Courage to stand alone. Courage to walk alone. Courage to be my authentic self. Somewhere in me, that seed began to grow. I myself do not need to sleep with 85 more men to find what I'm looking for, because I did that and didn't find it. But what I will say is that none of us, under the sound of my voice, should ever be so ashamed and embarrassed of who we are and how we love. Things are getting spicy on this planet, and they've been spicy for quite some time, because it is being found out that sex, intercourse, is the highest level of connection and communication on planet Earth. And people are being wigged out because they're realizing that to have that kind of connection and communication doesn't just exist between the opposite sexes. You can love your homie, and you can have sex with your homie, and you two can bond in a spiritual way that no one can break. And what's even more beautiful about it is that you can both enjoy each other without guilt or shame. You see, in my young life, I was searching for a lot of things because my home life was really bad. You would have thought I would have had it easy in my household because I have uncles and aunts. All four of my uncles and aunts are gay and lesbian. One is gone, God rest his soul. So I have a gay uncle and two gay aunts. You would have thought, since they were helping to raise me, that I would have been okay to be myself and that I would never have felt guilty or hated myself a single day of my childhood. But there was just one problem. My aunts and uncles hated themselves. They were straddling in church and they wanted to be Christians and be born again and all of that good jazz. And the sacrifice for that was to hate themselves, was to shun and turn their backs on the very person that God made them to be. So they were self-hating. And when I rose and said that I would not self-hate, I was put out. And as a child that never understood nor knew how to take care of myself, I get angry with my family at times because I realize you were sending me to the deuces. You were sending me to the gallows. Death was looming, and none of you cared. Gay yourselves, none of you reached out and said, we can't do this to this young man. We may not accept ourselves, but can't you see the light in him? This can't be his fate. But it was my fate. And when I was homeless, I managed to run all the way to France, pursue a modeling career, have a place to stay with a beautiful man that loved me for being my gay self. It was the dream. The only problem was I hadn't addressed the mental illness that was attached to all of it. You see, mental illness is hereditary. My mother was bipolar and schizophrenic. My father, Lord knows what he has. They didn't raise me a single day. I know the sound of their voices, but they were not in my life. I was abandoned by my mother and my father. All of this tragedy is enough to make a child off himself. And there were times when I almost did. There were times. But there's something in me that is not necessarily like the rest of the people in my family. I am a warrior. I've always been, and I always will be. I'm a warrior. And I fought homelessness, fought exile, fought being cast out with nothing. I fought, and I fought, and I fought. And I refused to die. I want to be able to have sex without guilt. I want to be able to screw a man that I enjoy and not feel so guilty that after he climaxes, I tell him, oh, I'm good. And he's like, you don't want to climax? I did this with all of them. And I said, no, I don't want to climax. And then I put them out, send them on their way. And then I would finish myself by myself because I couldn't be vulnerable with them. Being molested and raped, it does a lot to your sexuality. Not only does it destroy your innocence, but it takes from you parts of yourself that you need. You need. And it is possible to get through it. But here I am, 40 years old. It happened to me at 8. And here I am, still dealing with it. Still coming to terms with it. But guess what? Today, I finally did it. I came to terms with the elephant in my room. You see, I don't have to be guilty about having sex with a man. I have to take precaution so that we enjoy the experience together. And I've already done that by getting on PrEP and also having a lot of condoms with a water-based lubricant. I still don't know when I'll break my celibacy. But I look at men every day and find them sexually attractive. But I've got to deal with the shame that Christianity put on me. They cursed me. But God, in his infinite wisdom, has been showing me that none of the weapons that they formed against me ever prospered. Yes, they inconvenienced me, but look what they did. They've got me here, sharing my story with you, helping you heal and come alive again. You should not feel guilty for loving the way that you love. You should not feel guilty for having the sex that makes you feel the best about life. And you should also not be afraid to be able to be vulnerable with your sexual partners. We're all looking for something. But what we cannot do anymore is allow other people's notions, agendas, and ideas to take over our lives. I'm 40. It's about time I start living my life the way I want to, unapologetically in every area, not just in my work, but in my private life. I don't want one man. You've heard me say this. I like to hire professionals. That's what I do. I like the best. I want the most experienced. I do. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with being polyamorous. Nothing wrong at all. I'm poly. That's what I really am. Because I can love each and every one of my boys with the same level of intensity, honor, and appreciation. And I do it. I just haven't gone to bed with any of them because guilt is ruining my life. I'm 40. I better use it now before I lose it forever. But what I had to undo the most was realizing that God wasn't against me, even though the Black church was, even though my family was. God was for me. God was for me. And not only was he for me, but I learned something very valuable. I learned from my grandmother, the Queen Mother, the Duchess of Slay, that the same people that want to destroy you want to use you as well. So, what's that mean? Many hetero identifying men would say, oh, you're a faggot. I can't fuck with you. But yet and still, do you know how many of them I slept with behind closed doors? Oh, I didn't really mean what I said. That's just the show off for the block. But guess what? I learned my lesson. I don't do DL men. I don't do DL men. I like men of all spectrum. And when I say all the spectrum, I'm not talking about color. I tend to love Black and Latin men, but I love feminine men. I love butch men. I love masculine men. I love, men, period. And that is what I attract. I attract men in my life, and I love them all. We've got to learn how to have sex without guilt, guys. The church is wrong. God answered me through me and let me know they're wrong. They sent you on a spiral for many years, but I'm here now, and I'm here to help you undo all of the guile, all of the negative things they spoke over your life. I'm here to undo all of that so that you, meaning me, and you listening under the sound of my voice, can be free. Because you could have all the money in the world. If you still feel like an abomination going to hell, you're going to have a very miserable life. And I don't want that for you. So I share my story to empower your story and empower you. Get up from that bed of shame. Throw it away and live your out loud, gay lifestyle. Because, baby, you get one life to live. And when it's done on this side before you transition, it's done permanently. There is no do-over. Stop letting people push you to extremes. I got pushed to extremes. I was either hypersexual or hypo. Yes or no, no, no. All because I worried about what people thought of me. But I'm 40 years old now. And you know what the difference is? I don't give one fuck about what anyone has to say about me. Why? Because I've learned to love me through the 18 years of therapy. I've learned to love me. And guess what? I'm all the love that I need. And I want you to be able to feel that way about yourself. You are all the love that you need. So any other love that you receive that is unsolicited is just icing on your cake, baby. Have your cake and eat it too. I love all of you, and I thank you for listening to me as I exercise my bravery and learn to be able to have sex and masturbate without guilt or shame from the church. Fear that God is watching and disapproving. No, God gave me this life. And when I enter my boudoir, I have his respect. He waits at the door while I enjoy the pleasures that he made for me to enjoy. I love all of you. This was kind of heavy, but sometimes you got to go heavy. Light work is just not going to cut it. I love you all. Mwah. So did you enjoy? I hope you did. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and don't forget to cash at me at the Queen of Shade. I am your favorite content creator, right? Right. You want to see more of this content, right? Right. Cash at me. I love you. Mwah. Salutations, it's the Queen of Shade here. I need a huge favor from you. I need you right now to follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. My Instagram is I am the Queen of Shade, and my TikTok is I am the Queen of Shade. And I also need you to subscribe right now to my YouTube channel, which is the Queen of Shade. Now, I know that I always say that, but maybe you guys don't hear me. I need you guys to show up for me in full force the way that I show up for you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please follow me on Instagram at I am the Queen of Shade. Please follow me at TikTok at I am the Queen of Shade, because I need you guys. I want to get my numbers up. Numbers aren't everything. I have a lot of people watching that aren't saying anything. But it's time for you to declare yourself to me. You love me. Declare yourself to me. You love me. Declare yourself to me. Thank you in advance, and I love you all. Mwah.
Turn that TV down.